I'm Tamara Holder, and this is Sports Court. Joining me from Miami is Darren Heitner from Heitner Legal. And today we're talking about the Miami Beach Bowl/brawl and the Jameis Winston hearing. Thanks for joining, Darren.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about Jameis Winston. He was found to not have violated the code of conduct hearing. And a lot of people say this is pretty suspicious, especially because he said that the woman said that moaning was the only way that she said that she consented to the sexual act. What do you think?
Yeah, so the code of conduct hearing is very separate and apart from any civil trial or a criminal trial. And in that code of conduct hearing, Jameis Winston, the accused, has the right to just say absolutely nothing, which is almost entirely what he did. He read from a 5-page prepared statement and then answered a couple questions regarding consent, as you mentioned. And what he said was that moaning was the verbal and physical acquiescence of the accuser, that she basically consented to sexual intercourse and used that quote-unquote moaning as his justification as to his position.
So do you think that this is hurting the arbiter or the decision maker in this case? Do you think that he's the one who's now basically newly defined no means yes?
No, I don't. And again, former Justice Harding, who was a Supreme Court justice in the state of Florida, basically said that what we have here is a case where you have to show by a preponderance of the evidence that Jameis Winston accused this sexual misconduct and this endangerment, which were the two different counts that were looked at in this particular case. And he said, look,
right, but the other men in this case, they were found to have violated the code of conduct. They actually threw away, I believe, the video phone or the video on the phone. How is it that he gets away with it right before a bowl game? Isn't this a little suspicious?
It may be a little suspicious, but again, there has to be that proof that if it's more probable than not that he actually committed the offense. Again, the two counts were sexual misconduct and endangerment. The counts against his roommates were separate and apart from that.
But
you
they were
have
part
to
of the
actually
incident.
show.
They were part of the
Correct.
incident. Now, I just want to go into the fact that Jameis Winston hasn't had any other code of conduct hearings for his other instances of behavior, if you will call it that, at FSU. I mean, he stole crabs, which was awkward, and then he jumped on a table and screamed some weird thing as well. So why is he not being talked to or punished for any of these things?
Well, this was certainly the most egregious act, and I think that they wanted to speed up whatever sort of hearing there would be. Obviously, there's a decision now, and the accuser has the right to appeal within 5 days. The problem is that a hearing on that appeal won't occur for another 10 days after that, and a decision won't come out until after the national championship game, if FSU even makes it that far. Obviously, we know that Jameis will be playing.
This isn't about an appeal. This isn't about an appeal or a national championship game. It's about the fact that Jameis Winston cannot be ever held accountable for his behavior, and he keeps getting away with everything. Now, speaking of getting away with things, I want to go now to the Miami Beach Bowl, or Miami Beach Brawl, as I like to call it. What about these players from Brigham Young and Memphis? Brigham Young is supposed to have this high moral code, and they're now kicking each other in the face and taking their helmets off. What do you think of this?
Right, you have BYU that will discipline a player for having sexual intercourse, talking about a situation that we just discussed, disciplining a player for that, but now you have a bowl game where at the very end, players from that team and Memphis are brawling against each other, and it's something that neither team, neither school can stand for. The issue is a lot of these players that participate in this bowl game will never step foot on a football field again. So how do you actually discipline or punish those players? You probably can't.
Well, we have a player in the NFL just this week who was punished after his, 6th or 8th violation, personal safety violation. He was only punished for a 1-game suspension. So what do the college teams do with their athletes? How do they teach them a lesson that this behavior is unacceptable?
Well, you suspend them. That's the clear way to punish them. But again, you have this problem where a lot of the players on each team are seniors or are ineligible in the future. So how do you punish someone like that? Once they're outside of college. Well, but how much control does the coach really have over a situation like that? The teams are playing all 4 quarters of a game, and then at the very end thereafter they engage in this type of brawl. It's certainly not something that was advanced by the coach himself. So I don't think that it would necessarily be fair to punish the coach or even the school for this type of brawl.
Well, I guess now it's in God's hands, and they can deal with it at the school because it's terrible conduct. I really appreciate you joining us, and Sports Court is adjourned.